Ernest Borgnine names the 7 actors he hates most. Ernest Borgnine was born Hermes Ephron Borgnino on January 24, 1917, in Hamden, Connecticut. He was the son of Italian immigrants who had settled in the United States in search of a better life. His early years were spent navigating the challenges of growing up in a working-class household during the Great Depression, a period that shaped his gritty determination and resilience. His parents separated when he was a child, and he moved with his mother to Italy for a brief time before returning to Connecticut. As a young man, Borgnine showed little interest in acting. After high school, he worked various odd jobs and eventually joined the U.S. Navy in 1935, where he served for 10 years, including throughout World War II. Rising to the rank of gunner's mate first class. Borgnine's entry into acting came relatively late in life after his military service. Unsure of what path to take after the war, he was encouraged by his mother to try acting because she believed his big personality and strong presence would be well suited for the stage. He enrolled in the Randolph-Macon Women's College Theater program in Virginia, and later studied at the Barter Theater in Abingdon, Virginia, where many prominent actors got their start. His big break came in 1951 when he appeared in the Broadway production of Harvey, and soon after, he moved to Hollywood. His rough-hewn features and authoritative demeanor made him a natural fit for villainous and tough guy roles. One of his early standout performances was as the brutal Sergeant Fatso Judson in From Here to Eternity, 1953, where he starred alongside Burt Lancaster and Montgomery Clift. That role helped launch his film career and established him as a reliable character actor. However, it was the 1955 romantic drama Marty that catapulted Borgnine to fame and earned him widespread critical acclaim. In a remarkable departure from his earlier roles, Borgnine portrayed Marty Paletti, a lonely Bronx butcher who struggles with self-esteem and societal pressure to marry. His gentle, poignant performance resonated deeply with audiences and critics alike. For his role in Marty, he won the Academy Award for Best Actor, as well as a Golden Globe Award and a BAFTA Award, making him one of the few actors to receive all 3 major acting honors for a single role. The film itself won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival and remains a classic of mid-century American cinema. Borgnine's Oscar win was all the more significant because he was not a traditional leading man in appearance, proving that heartfelt authenticity could triumph over Hollywood glamour. Over the next several decades, Borgnine became a staple of both the big and small screens. He demonstrated extraordinary versatility, shifting seamlessly between drama, action, and comedy. In the 1960s, he starred in numerous popular films including The Flight of the Phoenix, 1965, The Dirty Dozen, 1967, and Ice Station Zebra, 1968. He had a gift for portraying both military leaders and blue-collar men with depth and credibility. One of his most beloved roles came on television when he starred as Lieutenant Commander Quentin McHale in the comedy series McHale's Navy, which aired from 1962 to 1966. The show, set during World War II, showcased Borgnine's comedic timing and affable charm, and it earned him a whole new generation of fans. Later in his career, he appeared in Airwolf 1984 to 1986 as the helicopter mechanic Dominic Santini, again proving his enduring appeal across genres and decades. Borgnine never retired and remained active well into his 90s. In his later years, he lent his distinctive voice to the animated character Mermaid Man on Nickelodeon's SpongeBob SquarePants, introducing him to an entirely new generation of viewers. He also continued to make appearances in independent films and guest star on television shows, always bringing warmth and professionalism to every project. In 2007, he received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Screen Actors Guild, a fitting recognition of his extraordinary contributions to the craft of acting. He was also honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, located at 6324 Hollywood Boulevard. Ernest Borgnine, the beloved and versatile actor known for his rugged screen presence and enduring career, experienced a colorful and sometimes tumultuous personal life, particularly when it came to his marriages. Over the course of his life, Borgnine was married 5 times, each union reflecting different chapters in his journey, both as a man and as a public figure. His first marriage was to Rhoda Kimmons, whom he met during his service in the U.S. Navy, a period that played a formative role in shaping Borgnine's character and sense of discipline. The two were married in 1949, shortly after Borgnine completed his military service and began transitioning into civilian life and an acting career. Their marriage lasted nearly a decade, ending in divorce in 1958. During their time together, they welcomed a daughter, Nancy, who was born on May 28, 1952. Borgnine, who had not yet become a household name at the time of his marriage to Kimmons, was steadily working to establish himself in Hollywood, which may have contributed to the strains on their relationship. Despite the eventual dissolution of their marriage, their shared bond as co-parents remained a defining element of that phase in his life. Following his divorce from Kimmons, Borgnine married the famed Mexican actress Katy Gerardo in 1959. Gerardo, who had already achieved international recognition and acclaim for her work in Mexican cinema and Hollywood westerns, brought star power and intensity to the relationship. However, their marriage proved difficult, likely due in part to their strong personalities and the challenges of balancing 2 demanding careers in the spotlight. Their union lasted until 1963, a period marked by frequent separations and reported disagreements. Despite their shared passion and charisma, they ultimately parted ways, unable to reconcile their differences. Perhaps the most notorious of Borgnine's marriages was his brief and highly publicized union with actress and singer Ethel Merman in 1964. The marriage, which lasted a mere 42 days, quickly became fodder for tabloid headlines and Hollywood gossip. The relationship began with great enthusiasm. 2 larger-than-life personalities from the entertainment industry joining forces, but quickly unraveled due to constant conflict. Merman, known for her powerful voice and commanding stage presence, and Borgnine, equally strong-willed and expressive, clashed frequently. Their incompatibility was summed up most famously in Merman's autobiography, where her description of the marriage consisted of a single blank page, a striking and sarcastic statement about the brevity and turbulence of their time together. Borgnine's longtime friend and comedic co-star, Tim Conway, offered a humorous yet insightful comment years later, remarking, "Ernie is volatile. I mean, there's no question about that. And Ethel was a very strong lady. So you put 2 bombs in a room, something is going to explode, and I guess it probably did." The union, while short-lived, became an enduring anecdote in Hollywood history. Borgnine's 4th marriage to Donna Rancourt proved to be more stable and family-oriented. They were married from 1965 until 1972, a span of 7 years during which they welcomed 3 children. Their son, Christopher, was born on August 9, 1969, while their daughters, Sharon and Diana, were born on August 20, 1965, and December 29, 1970, respectively. This period in Borgnine's life coincided with some of his most prolific years in television and film, including his iconic role as the lovable skipper in the TV series, McHale's Navy. Despite the increasing demands of his career, Borgnine took great pride in his role as a father, and his relationship with his children remained meaningful to him throughout his life. However, like his previous marriages, this one too ended in divorce, possibly strained by the pressures of fame and his often turbulent personal disposition. The final and most enduring marriage of Borgnine's life was to Tove Tresneise, a Norwegian-born businesswoman and cosmetics entrepreneur. They were married on February 24, 1973, and remained devoted to one another until Borgnine's death in 2012, a remarkable stretch of nearly 4 decades. Their relationship stood in sharp contrast to his earlier unions, marked by stability, mutual respect, and shared support. Tutova, who founded the Tutova Corporation, often spoke publicly about their marriage and credited its success to their deep companionship and the space they gave one another to grow. She was also instrumental in managing aspects of Borgnine's public image in his later years and remained by his side through the twilight of his career and into his final days. Together, they often attended events, gave interviews, and supported each other's endeavors, with Borgnine even becoming a proud promoter of his wife's successful beauty line. Beyond his relationships, another significant detail about Borgnine's personal life was his decision to give up smoking in 1962. For years he had been a heavy smoker, a habit that was common among many actors of his generation. However, concerned about the toll it could take on his health and his voice, especially as he increasingly took on roles in both film and television, Borgnine made the decision to quit. His ability to overcome this addiction reflected a determination and commitment to self-improvement that also paralleled the positive changes he made in his personal life in later years. Through 5 marriages, some stormy, some tender, and a lifetime of learning and growth, Ernest Borgnine's personal life was as rich and dramatic as any character he ever portrayed on screen. Each relationship left a distinct mark on his journey, shaping not only the man behind the actor, but also enriching the legacy of one of Hollywood's most enduring stars. Ernest Borgnine, the Academy Award-winning actor known for his tough guy roles and gravelly charm, was often celebrated for his jovial demeanor and work ethic. Yet behind the scenes, Borgnine, like many old-school Hollywood stars, had strong opinions about his peers. While he was generally diplomatic in public interviews, a little-known late-life conversation with a biographer revealed the rarely heard story of the 7 actors Borgnine openly admitted to disliking, some with deep-seated resentment. The reasons ranged from professional betrayal to outright personality clashes, painting a more complex portrait of a man who seemed all smiles on screen but bore a sharp memory for slights off it. 1. Frank Sinatra, a guy who could freeze a room with a glance. Borgnine's distaste for Frank Sinatra, America's beloved crooner and rat-packed kingpin, stemmed not from Sinatra's music, but his behind-the-scenes behavior. The two had crossed paths during the filming of From Here to Eternity, and while Borgnine wasn't in the film, he was vocal about his disdain for how Sinatra threw his weight around on set. Borgnine reportedly found Sinatra's influence in Hollywood more toxic than talented, describing him as a guy who could freeze a room with a glance. And not because you respected him, but because you were afraid of him. Sinatra's aloofness and tendency to surround himself with sycophants rubbed Borgnine the wrong way. He called him a man who wanted loyalty but never returned it. 2. Montgomery Clift. Too delicate for this business, Borgnine, a man of the old guard, had little patience for what he considered fragile actors. While he acknowledged Montgomery Clift's talent, he didn't respect his method or his personal instability. He treated every scene like he was digging up a grave, Borgnine once said. To Borgnine, acting was a job, demanding sure, but not worth the personal torment that Clift seemed to endure. He saw Clift's brooding style and tortured personal life as signs of weakness. Hollywood's no place for saints or victims, he remarked, and Monty always played both. He also noted that Clift would often delay production with indecision or emotional breakdowns, which Borgnine viewed as selfish and unprofessional. 3. Tony Curtis. A pretty face with no backbone. Borgnine's criticism of Tony Curtis was blunt and unforgiving. He had all the looks in the world, but not an ounce of grit, he declared. The two had very different approaches to the craft of acting. While Curtis came up through the studio system leveraging his matinee idol appeal, Borgnine saw himself as a blue-collar actor who worked for every inch of respect he earned. Their time filming the Vikings in 1958 only deepened Borgnine's contempt. He described Curtis as pampered, late to set, always worried about his hair, and didn't have the stones to tell the director if something didn't work. Borgnine resented actors who, in his words, wanted the glamour, but not the grind. 4. George Peppard. Arrogance without the resume. Despite starring in successful films like Breakfast at Tiffany's, George Peppard never gained the universal admiration he might have hoped for. Certainly not from Borgnine. The two worked briefly together on a war film in the early 1970s, and Borgnine was reportedly incensed by Peppard's diva attitude. He strutted on to set like he was Brando, but all he had was a squared jaw and an ego bigger than the script. Borgnine loathed actors who gave orders instead of taking direction, and Peppard's insistence on rewriting lines, demanding extra takes, and criticizing other cast members earned him an eternal place on Borgnine's blacklist. 5. Shelley Winters. Louder than a freight train and twice as stubborn. The only woman on the list, Shelley Winters drew Borgnine's ire with her bombastic personality and uncompromising nature. The two appeared together in The Poseidon Adventure, 1972, and their behind-the-scenes clashes became legendary among the cast. Borgnine respected her talent. He even called her a hell of a force when she wanted to be, but he couldn't stand her domineering behavior. She'd tell the director how to shoot, the cameraman where to stand, and then come after you if you didn't say your line the way she liked it, Borgnine recounted. To him, Winters represented everything that was wrong with actors who forgot they were part of a team. 6. Richard Harris. Drank like a sailor, fought like a dock worker. Richard Harris, known for his Shakespearean prowess and hard-living lifestyle, made Borgnine's list for more personal reasons. The two reportedly had a violent altercation in a bar in London after Harris insulted one of Borgnine's friends. Harris was infamous for his drinking and brawling, and while Borgnine could be tough himself, he saw Harris as an uncontrollable liability. He was all flash and fists, Borgnine remembered, talented sure, but you never knew if he'd show up sober or at all. He considered Harris emblematic of a breed of actor who mistook chaos for charisma. 7. Robert Blake. Darkness follows that guy. Perhaps the most chilling entry on Borgnine's list was Robert Blake, with whom he worked early in Blake's career. Even back then, Borgnine said, Blake had a shadow in his eyes. While Borgnine kept the details vague, he hinted that Blake's temperament was mean-spirited and dangerous. The two reportedly clashed on a small TV project in the 1960s, where Blake made life difficult for crew members and fellow cast. He'd yell at people just for bringing him the wrong coffee, Borgnine said. Years later, when Blake was tried for the murder of his wife, Borgnine wasn't surprised. I never said he did it, he clarified, but let's just say I never expected him to be on the right side of the headlines. While Ernest Borgnine will always be remembered as a hard-working, big-hearted performer with a career that spanned over 6 decades, this rare confession offers a peek behind the curtain into the grudges and grievances of a man who saw Hollywood not as a dream factory, but as a battlefield, one he survived by being tough, honest, and unwilling to suffer fools. At the age of 95, Borgnine died of renal failure on July 8, 2012, at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. He had undergone surgery a month prior to his death and had been to the hospital days before it for a medical checkup, 28. He was cremated and given a military funeral.